Good evening. Hello. Thanks for tuning into the video. I'll try not to make it too long. I just wanted to make a quick video really on the topic of, well, what I said earlier on about AI tools and what they can do and all this fancy stuff. And this is literally my first dip ever into an image enhancer or any kind of generative image creation, any tools. This one is, I found it through a YouTube link, and it's called KREA. Does exactly what it says on the tin. Not quite. It's incredible. That's the brief outline. The point is, I wanted to see what I could do with some of my old models, images that I had made back in 2017. So literally about 7 years ago or 6 years. And there's a few of these image manipulators, but this is just one from a recent YouTube video, and a guy said, you should try this one, it's free. So here we go. I thought I'd give you a quick tour and show you what it can do. So, brought in my image. First of all, as you can see in the background, it's the old monastery that I did some years ago. And at the top you've got three main buttons. Home, I don't know, have never done it. Generate is literally creating an image from scratch, and enhance is, as you can imagine. So let's just show you let's give you a bit of a walk around the different parts of the UI and what you can do with it. Okay, so first of all you import your image. Nice. Now this is my original image. Okay, so depending on what screen you're looking at, this it may look okay, but trust me, in real life this is quite a squished image. The resolution is kind of shit. I actually don't know why it's so bad, because I took a direct screenshot of it from the web browser, but nonetheless, the image enhancer is nuts, mate. It is cleaned it up a treat. It's gone from kind of jaggedy to Robocop. It's my first revelation, to be honest with you, was just how it's addressed, like the arches. I mean, look at it. Immediately from jaggies and all sorts of step contouring to be honest with you, a perfectly smooth curve, which is what I always wanted. And I'm amazed at this, because I could never go back into my original model the way that I'd created it to refine those edges, so it was always going to look archaic. Nonetheless, that's the first revelation. I thought it was amazing. Looking at the image more and more and more, you notice things the more you look at it. Definitely quite a high contrast result, I would say. It's a little bit smoother in my original, and then the edited one has kind of bumped up the contrast a bit, so it's just doing stuff, right? A lot of stuff. But first other surprise, some things don't work out correct. You've got a really big arch there. It's kind of distorted the archway, whereas it should be a perfectly half circle. It's kind of bulbous it a little bit, made it look a bit silly. Window is completely different, but to my surprise it's added these things, which I think look really damn cool. It's put them up here and here and here. That's just some of the changes that I've noticed. That's completely different. The spire thing. So how it used to look, how it now looks. Crazy. Quite different. So on the left, anyway, just a bit about the UI. On the left, you've got your main image that you imported, and then it breaks down what it describes the image as, and it gives you a little readout. The image is a black and white architectural rendering of cathedral with multiple domes and spires. Building has a very ornate design with details such as arches, columns and decorative elements. Now these are your prompts through which you can change stuff. Presumably you change the descriptors and then things change in the image. That that's incredible already. The upscaling thing is that's very interesting. So it's obviously taken it from quite a bad looking fuzzy image to, well, a lot cleaner. And then you can go up to all the way up to 16x, which is just nuts. Can't test that out because this is just a free version. However, next bit to talk about, down in the bottom left there, style. So you can change it. These are sort of broad strokes categories of things you can, approaches that it would take to give treatment sort of to the image. I've often gone with none, because none I find gives the least sort of biased result. Digital art tends to lean a bit more towards painting style results, portrait even more so. Product then tends to keep things quite clean. Photorealistic does its best, I suppose, to keep it that way. But I'm only just scratching the surface, I've only just started. Two main sliders. AI strength seems to change how aggressive the whole process is, and resemblance strength, well, you can imagine if you bring it down, the AI is going to do a lot more work on it and perhaps neglect, or what they call disrespect. It will not respect the original image as much as if it was higher. So that's generally how that works. Anyway, just a quick walkthrough. I've generated little bits, as you can see on the bottom left, on the bottom there's a load of results, and as you tap through you can start to see some of the changes. So I really just tweaked a few sliders here, didn't add any more prompts or anything, just to see what the results would be. Some things, depending on what you do, they can come out worse. That looks terrible, whereas that looks really quite cool and gothic. It's knackered the window up here, it's added something behind it, very Dali-esque, but incredible still. I'm just blown away how much it can do to change the original image, because these are all things I wanted to do. I wanted to texture this, adding sort of embellishments and little details like this roofing here. It's just added it. Nuts. More detail to the spire, and just, already just dramatically transformed the look of these pillars. So one thing I have noticed is, particularly in my case, because it's quite a high contrast image, I don't think it's so smart about recognising where the extents are, where the limits are. So if you take this bit here, for instance, this front section of let's call it a panel, is exactly the same length as the side panel and the one to the left of it. But because the way the shading was in the original photo, you can see there it's got quite a strong shadow, and it kind of accepted the shadow, or the end of the shadow, as being, in its processing, the end of the entire roof, which is obviously wrong. And the same goes to an extent for the domes. Easier when you sort of interact with it yourself, you can sort of see what I'm pointing at, but some results are just really pleasing. Adding sort of details up here that you just wouldn't expect. The window looks great. Moving on a little bit, won't go too much into the details exactly what I changed, because it's kind of a bit of a painful thing to describe, but generally I just try to iterate each time. It looks quite dirty in this one, and I don't know how I generated that exactly, but I kind of was like, oh, what could I do to make it look even more dirty and old, maybe that could look really amazing. So I then started coming up to the prompt and just putting in, building has an aged look or an old look, and this is what I got, which I thought looked great. I thought it looked really cool. the further you get away from the original, the more things become a bit distorted, maybe, and you can neglect certain things if you're not careful. But just looking at the trim on the building, this would have taken me hours to model, if I was even able to, because, as I say, I was sort of restricted on the way I could go back to my old model. But I mean, just look at what it's done on the roof. Brilliant. Really cool. My mind started just going, wow, I could, in theory, if I took a flat image, I could snip a portion of that, create what they call an alpha, which is like a depth thing, map of a sort, and apply that to the building and raise it. Like if I could get into the original file, I could actually add that as geometry and really flesh this thing out. So it's quite a cool tool to give you just ideas on how you could. Well, it's just inspired me, to give you ideas on what you could do to enhance it. Stepping through. There's just many variations, to be honest. I really like this one. So in this one, I actually tried to get it to add a plaque to the wall, just to see if that would generate that, but no such luck. Who knows why? Maybe it can't determine which wall, maybe it doesn't know what a plaque should be, all sorts of reasons. But anyway, really loving the direction this is going in. The roof looks fantastic. Fantastic detail. I mean, this is looking quite aged as a building now, which I think is great. Even though my prompt was the cathedral looks clean, it's kind of anything but anyway, I still really like it. Lovely detail on the roof as well, the way it's moving in that direction. Fantastic. It's respected the perspective pretty well. Not terrible at all. You can see that things still look reasonably intact. The right door that you can see there, that kind of looks like it's opening inwards a little bit because the perspective is a bit knackered. It's not, it's not getting that quite right. Like if you look at the original, things are directly in line as they should be because it's the way I modelled it. But after it's generated the image, you can kind of see how it's definitely shifting the pixels a bit, or the image. I think to describe it, I would say the higher the contrast that you get, the more, or the less clear the original image, obviously, the more it makes mistakes, if you want to call it that. How else do I say it? But overall, I'm just blown away. I think this is fantastic. Looks like stone to me, which is what I wanted to do. And I could never actually texture this building because SketchUp's quite limited for texturing, and I can no longer get the file open in the way that I need to texture it. And then I thought, okay, let's just change the material. Let's go crazy. The building is made from marble. I thought, let's try that, see how that looks. And hey presto, some flipping lovely looking marble texture. I mean, it's putting it just about anywhere it wants to, it seems, but I'm really happy with the way it's laying it. Bit of an angle to that bit. Yeah, I think this is fantastic. And this one I called it cracked marble. Not entirely sure the difference, but it went ahead and started adding these details to the columns, which I think is fantastic. Again, something that I wanted to model but never got round to, and I think that's great. And it's given a sort of slightly tiled effect to the marble as well. If you can have a look there, you've got a few more like divisions between the tiles and things, so greater detail. One image to the next, it's not always easy to tell the difference, but essentially, if it knackered up one bit of the image and you weren't happy, you could go crazy. You could go, right, crop it, cut that bit from the image, make a composition of all the best bits, and then, combine it all together in one sort of method. Really happy with the result of this one. I think what it's done with the tiles and the arch looks just fantastic. Look at the details added to the columns. Just, I think it's mind-blowing, to be honest. I really do. The result is so far removed from the original, but in such a positive way. You have to watch it a bit. This whole section of the building is just one circle that continues round, but after the treatment, it's kind of assumed that it's another arch, which it ain't. So you got to watch it a little bit as you go. It's also added some arches inside the archway, which is interesting, but not terrible. I love it. Love what it's done to the window. Okay, and that is about it. The final image that I settled on was this one. It's got a lot of really nice parts to it. It's even added an extra spire on the top of this building here, look. Fantastic. I could never, well, I could I? Model to this detail, this detailed extent, but I just think the result is just fantastic, really do. And that's a very long video, but I hope you've enjoyed it and seen what I'm talking about. This really is something else. I'm going to keep experimenting and see what I can come up with. But yeah, thanks for watching, just an introduction, and hope you enjoyed it.